Okay, let's dive in. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that honestly sounds like it should be just pure fun learning English by watching movies and TV shows.
It does sound ideal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just sit back, relax, watch your favorite show, and magically get better at English.
Exactly. But let's be real, we've probably all tried it. Just hitting play, maybe even binge watching a whole season.
hmm
And while it's enjoyable, it often doesn't quite, train your ear to pick up that super fast, natural way people actually talk.
That's such a common point of frustration.
Ye-
You hear people say, immerse yourself,
Yeah.
which is great advice in theory, but the reality, well,
Yeah.
for a lot of learners, it means hours spent basically just reading subtitles. You follow the story, sure,
You know what's happening.
but you don't feel that big jump in really understanding the spoken dialogue, especially when it's fast or when words just seem to blur together.
Oh, completely. It's like you understand perfectly with the text on screen, then you try listening without it, or you hear someone talk like that in real life, and it feels like a totally different language.
It really can. Or you try to use a phrase you heard.
It just sounds off, not quite right.
Exactly. It lacks that natural rhythm or pronunciation. And it's frustrating because you feel like you're putting the time in watching all this stuff.
But the results you want for, like, actual conversations aren't really showing up.
And that disconnect, that gap between just passively consuming the content and actively using it to improve, that's what often holds people back.
It's like having this amazing resource and endless movies, endless shows, but not having the instructions on how to actually use it for learning.
Precisely. They lack a targeted method.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. Pulling from the group source material we've looked at, we want to bridge that gap. We're aiming to give you a really clear step-by-step approach. Think of it as turning your streaming time into genuinely productive study time.
Yeah, transforming passive watching into active, powerful English learning. We've distilled the key strategies that actually work.
So what are we covering?
We'll walk through, first, how to choose the right movies and shows for where you are right now, your specific level. That's crucial.
Okay.
Then we'll get into specific techniques to really train your ears to catch that fast, connected, natural English, the stuff that usually flies by.
Mm-hmm. The tricky part.
We'll talk about subtitles, how to use them strategically so they're a learning tool, not just, crutch you rely on.
Right. Using them wisely.
And finally, how you can actually use your favorite scenes, your favorite characters to practice and really boost your own speaking skills.
Sounds like a solid plan.
Yeah,
So if you've ever felt that frustration or just wondered how to make movie night more effective for your English, stick with us. We're aiming to make your next viewing session a real learning experience. So where do we start? Choosing the right show.
absolutely. That's ground zero.
Mhm.
And it's honestly where the first mistake often happens. People just pick whatever's popular or what looks interesting or maybe what their friends are watching.
Yeah, makes sense.
But they don't stop to think, is the language in this show actually right for my current level?
Right. You hear, watch movies to learn. So you think, great, I'll finally watch that complex historical drama I've heard about. Or maybe some really fast-paced action movie.
Exactly. But the source material really stresses this. Just picking any old movie or show can actually be counterproductive. It might even hurt your motivation.
Why is being selective so important then?
It boils down to practicality, really. If the show is way too hard for you, significantly above your level,
You're just lost.
pretty much. You're constantly struggling. Maybe you only catch like 10 or 20% of the dialogue. It becomes incredibly demotivating.
Yeah, I can see that. You just feel overwhelmed.
You're drowning in words you don't know, complex sentences you can't parse.
Mm.
You probably can't even follow the plot properly, let alone focus on learning the language itself.
Yeah.
It stops being fun and just feels like frustrating work.
Okay, so too hard is bad. What about the other way? Too easy.
Well, if it's too easy, you're not really stretching yourself. You might understand almost everything, 90, 100%, which feels nice and comfortable.
Comfort's good, right.
Comfort is good, but comfort doesn't usually lead to significant learning or growth. You're not encountering enough new words or more complex ways of saying things or challenging listening situations.
So you're just reinforcing what you already know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which has its place, maybe for confidence building or relaxation, but it won't push your English forward very quickly.
Okay. So we need that middle ground, the just right zone.
Precisely. Often called the comprehensible input plus one zone, or just the sweet spot. Content that's challenging enough that you are encountering new things, new words, faster speech, but still accessible enough that you can understand the main ideas, follow the story, and stay engaged.
Makes sense. Challenging, but not impossible.
And the source provides a really helpful breakdown for finding this, based on general learning levels.
Okay, let's get into that. For beginners, people maybe just starting out or feeling they're at a lower level, what should they look for?
For beginners, the key is clarity and simplicity. You want material where the pronunciation is generally very clear and the dialogue is relatively simple and direct.
Less slang, less complex sentences.
Generally, yes. And ideally, the storyline should be quite straightforward and easy to follow visually. That way, even if you miss some words, the pictures, the actions, give you strong clues about what's happening.
So you can use context more easily.
Exactly. The source strongly recommends animated movies as a starting point.
Ah, like cartoons.
Yeah, films like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, that kind of thing. Think about it, the voice actors often speak more slowly and articulate, more clearly than in many live-action films.
That's true. They're often aiming for clarity for a younger audience anyway.
Right. And the animation itself provides really strong visual support for the dialogue. Plus, the vocabulary tends to be about concrete things, simple actions, and the sentence structures are usually less complicated.
Okay, so animation is good. What else?
Sitcoms focusing on everyday situations are also great. The source mentions classics like Friends, or maybe something more current like Modern Family.
Friends is still relevant for language.
The language is very much everyday, conversational English. Sure, the references are dated, but the core interactions, friends chatting, family dynamics, simple work situations, involve language that's still widely used.
And the situations are usually pretty clear, right? You know they're in the coffee shop or someone's apartment.
Exactly. The context helps a lot. The dialogue aims for naturalism, but usually avoids super technical jargon or very abstract language.
So relatable situations, clear context.
And one more for beginners, especially absolute beginners, or if you just want something very manageable, shows with really short, simple episodes.
Like what?
Things like Peppa Pig or Bluey were mentioned. Yes, they're kids' shows.
Okay, no shame in that if it works.
Absolutely not. They use really fundamental vocabulary, basic sentence structures, and the episodes are super short, maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
Ah, so you could watch one several times without it feeling like a huge task.
Precisely. Perfect for letting those basic sounds and simple sentences really sink in. So for beginners, clear pronunciation, simple dialogues, easy to follow plots. That's the goal.
Got it. Build that foundation. Okay, what about intermediate learners? They've got the basics, maybe handle a bit more speed and complexity.
Yeah, intermediate learners can definitely step it up. They're ready for content with more natural conversational speed, a wider range of words and idioms, but still generally within accessible contexts.
So moving closer to real-world speech, but maybe not the super specialized stuff yet.
Exactly. The source suggests TV dramas that feature pretty natural conversations. Not necessarily, heavy legal dramas or complex sci-fi, but things where people talk relatively normally. Examples given were shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or The Office.
Ah, okay. Workplace comedies, ensemble shows.
Right. They use more realistic, flowing dialogue. You'll hear more common idioms, maybe some cultural references. The humor and the character interactions rely on language that's a bit more nuanced than the beginner sitcoms, but the situations work, relationships are still very relatable.
So you're getting exposure to how people actually talk, maybe a bit faster, more linked speech?
Yes, definitely. Light comedies were also mentioned, like The Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother.
Okay.
Again, while they might have specific jokes or references, the basic back and forth between the characters is good exposure to natural, everyday speech patterns, including faster delivery and more colloquialisms. It's a good step up.
And you mentioned something interesting from the source reality shows, like cooking competitions. How did those fit in?
That's a great point, and maybe a bit unexpected. Shows like MasterChef or The Great British Bake Off were suggested.
Why reality TV?
Because a lot of the dialogue is unscripted, or at least feels very spontaneous. You hear people reacting in the moment, explaining things under pressure, asking genuine questions.
Ah, so it's not polished script dialogue.
Exactly. You might get some specific vocabulary related to cooking or baking, sure, but most of it is just natural human interaction. You hear pauses, ums, and whems, people interrupting each other. It's messy, like real conversation.
So it's good practice for understanding English with all its imperfections.
Yes, in relatable, often high stakes for the contestants' situations. You hear people thinking aloud. It's excellent for tuning your ear to authentic spoken English.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Less polished, more real.
So for intermediate, More natural flow, wider vocabulary, relatable context, starting to handle that authentic messiness.
Okay, stepping up the naturalness. Now, what about advanced learners? People who feel pretty comfortable with everyday English but want to, really push themselves.
For advanced learners, it's all about tackling diversity and complexity.
Yeah.
Diverse topics, different accents, really fast speech, nuanced language. It's time to leave the comfort zone.
So basically, throw yourself in the deep end.
Kinda, yeah. But strategically. This is where you can really benefit from movies known for that rapid-fire, complex dialogue that mirrors real life at speed. Think Inception or The Social Network.
Oh, yeah. The social network dialogue is famous for being fast and dense.
It is. Even native speakers often need to focus hard. These films have intricate plots, maybe abstract ideas, specialized jargon depending on the topic, and characters who speak incredibly quickly, maybe overlapping or mumbling. They demand high-level listening skills.
Definitely a challenge. What else?
News programs and documentaries are fantastic at this level. Things like BBC News or TED Talks.
Why news and talks?
You get exposure to more formal language, different registers, journalistic or academic styles. The topics are often complex global issues, science, philosophy. Plus, you hear a wide variety of voices, reporters, experts, interviewees from different places with different accents and speaking styles.
So it's moving towards the kind of English you might need in academic or professional settings, or just for understanding complex world events.
Exactly. And then there are TV dramas known for really sophisticated, complex dialogue. Shows like Breaking Bad or Sherlock were mentioned.
Ah, shows praised for their writing.
Yes. The language can be very layered, full of subtext, clever wordplay, cultural nuances, or maybe specific vocabulary related to crime, science, deduction. Understanding these requires more than just knowing the words. You need to grasp implication and nuance.
So advanced is about embracing speed, complexity, diverse topics, and different accents, really refining those high-level skills.
Absolutely. Pushing your boundaries constantly.
This breakdown by level beginner, intermediate, advanced is super helpful. But you mentioned a sweet spot earlier, that 50–70% understanding range. How do you figure out if a new show you're considering fits into that? Is there a quick check?
Yes, there's a very practical test you can do. Find the show or movie you're thinking about watching.
Okay.
And just pick a short section, maybe only a minute or even 2 minutes long.
Just a little clip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, watch that short clip without any subtitles at all. First time seeing it, first time hearing it, just raw listening.
Okay, watch it cold. No safety net.
Right. Then, after that one viewing, ask yourself honestly, roughly what percentage of the words, the dialogue, did I actually understand?
Just a gut feeling percentage.
Yeah, a rough estimate. Now, if you feel like you understood somewhere between, say, 50% and 70% of what was said,
50–70%.
then that content is probably a really good fit for your current learning level. It's likely in that sweet spot.
Okay, why is 50–70% the magic number? Why not lower or higher?
Well, think about it. If you understand much less than 50%, maybe only 20 or 30%.
You're mostly lost.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're spending almost all your mental energy just trying to decode individual words or basic phrases. It's hard to follow the plot, hard to feel engaged. You're likely to just get frustrated and give up.
Yeah.
It feels like hitting a brick wall.
Right. Too much struggle, not enough success.
And on the other hand, if you understand much more than 70% on that first cold lesson, say 80%, 90%, or even close to 100%.
It might be too easy.
Probably. You're not encountering enough new language or challenging structures or faster speech patterns to really push your skills forward efficiently. It might feel good, boost your confidence, which isn't bad.
But it's not optimal for learning quickly.
Right. It's more like review than new learning. So that 50–70% range is the sweet spot because you understand enough to follow along, to get the gist, to stay motivated.
But there's still a good chunk, 30–50%, that's new, challenging, requires effort, stuff you can actually work on and learn from.
That's exactly it. Enough known material to provide context for the unknown. It stretches you, but it doesn't break you.
That's a brilliant little test. So next time you're browsing, maybe just play the first 60 seconds of the trailer or the show itself, no subtitles, and do a quick check. 50–70%. Green light. Less. Maybe find something else for now. More. Could be good for fun, but maybe not for intensive learning.
It's a great practical filter.
Okay, so choosing the right stuff is foundational. We've got our show. It's in the sweet spot. Now, how do we actually use it to tackle that big challenge, understanding fast, natural, connected English, the stuff that just sounds like a blur sometimes?
Yes, the blur. That is absolutely the hurdle that trips up so many learners. They feel like they know the words on paper. They understand slow, careful speech.
Like maybe how a teacher talks in a lesson.
Exactly. But then they hear a native speaker in a movie talking at full speed, linking everything together, squashing sounds, and it just doesn't compute. It sounds like one long, garbled word.
It really does. Words you know perfectly well just seem to vanish or morph into something else entirely.
And that feeling is totally understandable because native speakers do fundamentally change sounds when speaking quickly and naturally. We don't pronounce every single word meticulously in isolation. That would sound robotic.
Right, nobody talks like that.
We connect words. The end sound of one word flows into the beginning sound of the next. We reduce unstressed vowels. Think how to often becomes tough, or for becomes fur. We drop sounds sometimes, especially in clusters of consonants.
And when you use tons of contractions and reductions.
Absolutely. Like going to becoming gonna, want to becoming wanna, kinda becoming kinda, I do not know, becoming, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I understand. I do not know instantly, but hearing, I don't know, might take an extra split second to process if you're not used to it.
Exactly. And there are hundreds, probably thousands of these little phonetic changes and connections happening constantly in fluent speech. Recognizing these altered sound patterns is a specific listening skill.
A skill that needs targeted training. Passive listening isn't enough.
Often, it's not enough on its own because your brain hasn't learned to automatically map the sound wadaya to the written words what do you. It needs help making that connection.
Okay, so how do we actively train our ears to catch these connections and reductions? What's the method?
The source material lays out a really effective three-step listening exercise. And the key is to do it with a very short clip of dialogue,
How short?
like maybe just 10 to 15 seconds, a single sentence or two at most. The idea is intensive, focused work on a small piece of language.
Okay, microlearning. Walk me through the steps.
Step one, you take that short 10, 15-second clip and you watch and listen to it without any subtitles at all.
First pass, just listening.
Right. And the goal here is not to understand everything perfectly. Don't stress about that. It's just to get an initial feel for it. What's the speed like? What's the rhythm? Can you catch any familiar words or phrases, even just one or two? It's like a quick diagnostic for your ears.
So low pressure, just observe.
Exactly. Then, step two, you play the exact same short clip again. But this time, you turn on the English subtitles.
Okay, English subtitles on for the second listen.
Now, this is the crucial learning step. As you listen and read the English subtitles simultaneously, you need to pay active attention to how the words you see written actually sound when spoken by the character.
Comparing the written form to the spoken reality.
Precisely. Where do words seem to link together? Which sounds seem to disappear or change completely? This is where you have those aha moments.
Like the what do you want to do example.
Exactly. You read, what do you want to do tonight? But you hear something like, what do you want to do tonight? And you consciously notice, what do you squished into what I want to became wanna.
Okay, so you're seeing the blueprint while hearing the actual construction.
Yes. Or you see going to, but here gonna. You see give me, but here gimme. You see because, but maybe here just cause. You start noticing how the t sound at the end of want blends with the t sound at the beginning of to, effectively becoming one sound in wanna.
So the subtitles act like a decoder ring in this step, helping you understand why it sounds the way it does.
That's a great way to put it. They decode the connected speech. This step is vital for training your brain to recognize these common, natural reductions and linkages when it hears them later without the text. You might need to pause, rewind, listen again to really catch it.
Okay, so listen without, then listen with English subs to analyze the connections. What's step 3?
Step 3. You watch that same short clip one more time, and you turn the subtitles off again.
Subtitles off again for the third listen. Why?
Now you're testing yourself.
Yeah.
You've heard it cold, you've analyzed it with the text. Now, can you understand it better just by listening? Can your ear now recognize what I wanna without needing to read it? Has the analysis you did in step 2 actually improved your pure listening comprehension for that specific phrase?
So it's like test down, analyze, retest.
Exactly. And you repeat this 3-step cycle, listen without, listen with English subs, listen without again for that same tiny 10, 15-second clip. You might do the whole cycle 2, 3, maybe even 4 times for just that one short phrase.
Really drill down on it.
Yes. The goal is to keep cycling through until, in step 3, you feel you can understand most, if not all, of that short clip purely from the sound.
Wow, that sounds intense. Focusing so much on just a few seconds. But I can really see the logic. You identify the problem, can't understand this blur. You see the explanation. It's connected speech shown by the subtitles, and then you test if you've learned it. Can I hear it now?
It is intense, but that focused repetition is incredibly effective. It's much more powerful for training your ear for connected speech than passively listening to hours of dialogue you only half understand. By working deeply on small chunks, you teach your brain to recognize the actual sounds of fluent English.
And doing this regularly, maybe just a few minutes a day with a new clip.
Will make a huge difference over time. That overwhelming blur of sound will gradually start to resolve into understandable words and phrases. Your ear gets tuned in.
Okay, that three-step method sounds powerful for ear training. Now, you mentioned using English subtitles in step 2 there, but also warned earlier about overusing subtitles, that they can become a crutch. How do we use them effectively in general viewing, not just in this specific exercise?
That's a really critical point. It's so easy to just switch on subtitles, especially in your native language, and leave them on for the whole movie.
Yeah, it feels easier, right? You don't miss anything.
It feels easier because your brain is smart and, frankly, a bit lazy.
Yeah.
If it can get the meaning by reading text in a language it understands well, it will absolutely prioritize reading over the much harder task of decoding unfamiliar sounds in a foreign language.
So if I'm watching with subtitles in, say, Spanish or French.
You're mostly practicing your Spanish or French reading skills, not your English listening skills. Your brain takes the path of least resistance.
Okay, so native language subtitles are generally out if the goal is improving English listening.
For active listening improvement, yes. English subtitles are much better, but even they can become a crutch if you only ever watch with them on.
Yeah.
You might still be relying too much on reading the English, not truly processing the sounds.
So what's the strategic way to use English subtitles for general watching, according to the source?
It's another step-by-step approach, actually somewhat similar in principle to the listening exercise. Let's say you're watching a longer scene or maybe a whole episode. Step 1 is watch it with the English subtitles turned on first.
Okay, start with the English subtitles on. Why is this helpful?
It serves a few key purposes. First, like in the listening exercise, it helps you connect the sound you're hearing to the written word you're seeing. You hear comfortable and see comfortable. That reinforces pronunciation and spelling links.
Okay. Sound to text mapping.
Second, it ensures comprehension, especially if the content is a bit challenging. You can catch new words or idioms you might have missed otherwise. You see them used in context, which is the best way to learn vocabulary. You can pause and look up a word if you need to.
So it builds vocabulary, make sure you understand the scene.
Exactly. You're using the subtitles as a support to decode the language and grasp the meaning fully. Then comes step 2.
Let me guess. Subtitles off.
You got it. Watch the same scene or episode again, but this time turn those English subtitles completely off.
Ah, okay. So after you've understood it with help, you remove the help.
Precisely. This is your dedicated listening practice. Your brain already has the context. It knows what happens and roughly what's said from step 1. Now it has to rely solely on processing the sounds to follow along. It forces your ear to do the work, to recognize the words and phrases you just saw written down.
So step 1 is understanding and mapping. Step 2 is pure listening reinforcement.
Exactly. And then the source suggests adding a step 3 to this process as well, which involves active production. Shadowing.
Shadowing again. It keeps popping up.
Because it's incredibly versatile and effective. In this context, after you've watched with subs, step 1, and without subs, step 2, you can go back through the scene again, this time pausing after each sentence or short phrase.
And then
you immediately repeat that sentence or phrase out loud yourself. The key is trying to mimic the original speaker as closely as possible.
copying their pronunciation, their rhythm, their intonation.
Everything. Try to sound just like the character. By physically saying the words, you're reinforcing the pronunciation patterns, getting your mouth used to making those sounds, and internalizing the natural rhythm and stress of English.
So it connects listening comprehension to actual speaking practice.
It bridges the gap beautifully. Let's try that quick example phrase the source used for this. I'll say it, then pause, and you, at home, try to repeat it, focusing on the sound and rhythm. I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Pause for listener to repeat.
Did you catch that slight stress on 5? I'll be there in 5 minutes. Trying to copy those nuances is what makes shadowing effective.
It feels a bit like acting, almost.
It is, in a way. So this whole process, watch with English subs, watch without, then shadow transforms subtitles. They go from being a passive reading aid to being an integral part of an active learning cycle involving comprehension, listening practice, and pronunciation practice.
Using them as a tool, not a crutch. That makes perfect sense. Okay, we've covered choosing content, really training our ears for speed, and using subtitles smartly. Now let's tackle something that feels, well, maybe less intuitive. How can just watching something actually help me speak English better?
That's a very fair question, because watching is inherently passive input, right?
Yep.
You're taking language in, not putting it out in a real conversation.
Yeah, it feels like two different skills.
They are related but distinct skills. However, the source material strongly emphasizes that you absolutely can leverage all that input from movies and TV to directly practice and improve your speaking. It's about deliberately turning that input into output.
Okay, I'm curious, how do we do that? What are the exercises?
Two main techniques are highlighted for speaking practice. The first one is surprise, surprise, shadowing again.
Okay, shadowing is definitely the MVP technique today.
Yep.
How is it applied specifically for speaking improvement this time?
So when we talked about it just now with subtitles, it was mostly about pausing and repeating after the speaker, focusing on accurate mimicry. For dedicated speaking practice, the source suggests trying to shadow simultaneously.
Simultaneously, as in talking at the exact same time as the character on screen.
Exactly.
Whoa, that sounds really hard.
It is definitely challenging. It takes practice. You pick a short sentence or phrase again, keep it short to start, listen to it once or twice to get the rhythm, then play it again and try to speak the words along with the character, matching their pace, their rhythm, their intonation in real time.
Like you're trying to be their voice double or a synchronized echo.
That's a perfect description, a synchronized echo.
What's the specific benefit of doing it simultaneously compared to just repeating afterwards?
Trying to keep up in real time forces you to pay incredibly close attention to the flow and timing of native speech. You can't just focus on individual words. You have to grasp the whole melodic contour of the phrase where the stresses fall, the ups and downs of intonation, the linking, the rhythm. It trains your mouth, tongue, and vocal cords to move in ways that mimic native patterns much more intensely.
So it's like muscle memory training for your mouth, getting it used to the physical feeling and speed of fluent English.
Precisely. It's fantastic for improving your accent, reducing hesitation, and making your speech sound more naturally fluid because you're forcing yourself to keep up with the native speaker's pace and rhythm.
Okay, simultaneous shadowing for accent and fluency. Sounds tough, but effective. What's the second speaking exercise?
The second one is called role play. This feels a bit more like traditional practice, perhaps.
Role play, like acting out a scene.
Exactly. You choose a short scene from your movie or show that has a conversation between two or more characters. Pick one character you want to be.
Okay, I choose my role.
Then you play the scene. Every time the other character, the one you're not playing, delivers a line, you pause the video.
Pause after the other person speaks?
Yes. And then you deliver your character's line out loud. Then you unpause, listen to the other character's response, pause again, and deliver your next line.
So you're literally having a conversation with the characters on the screen.
You are. You're stepping into the dialogue.
Right.
Here's the key. Don't just read your lines flatly. The real goal is to try and match your chosen character's tone, their emotion, and their speaking speed when you deliver your lines.
So it's not just about saying the right words, it's about saying them the right way, like method acting for language learners.
Kind of. Was the character angry when they said that line? Try to sound angry? Were they sarcastic, happy, confused? Try to capture that feeling in your voice using their intonation and pace as your guide.
That sounds incredibly useful for practicing natural expression, because real conversation isn't just words, it's tone, emotion, rhythm.
Exactly. This exercise forces you to think about how you convey meaning and feeling in English, moving beyond just grammatical accuracy. It helps you practice using intonation, stress, and speed appropriately for different situations and emotions, making your own speech more expressive and natural.
This seems like a great way to build confidence, too. Practicing delivering lines with feeling in a safe environment before you have to do it in real life.
It really is. It bridges the gap between knowing the language and actually using it effectively and expressively.
Let's try that other quick example from the source, focusing on tone this time. Listen to this common friendly greeting. I'll say it, then pause, and you try repeating it, really aiming for that friendly, slightly upward tone. Hey, long time no see. Pause for listener to repeat.
Nice. Did you feel that lift at the end? CC. That's part of the natural friendly melody. Practicing these things, simultaneous shadowing for the physical aspects of fluency and accent, and role play for expressive delivery and tone, makes a huge difference.
So even if you don't have someone to practice with 204/7, you can use these techniques with movies and TV to actively work on your speaking. That's really empowering.
It puts powerful practice tools right into your hands using readily available, engaging material.
Fantastic. Okay, wow, we have covered a lot of really practical ground today. If you started this deep dive feeling that common frustration, words just blurring together, or feeling like you sound robotic when you speak, you should now have a pretty solid toolkit.
Absolutely. We've gone from that vague advice, just watch movies, to a specific actionable method you can start using tonight.
Let's do a super quick recap of those key strategies we pulled from the source. First, choosing the right level is paramount. Remember the guide. Beginners might go for Toy Story, Friends, or Peppa Pig for clarity. Intermediate could try Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Big Bang Theory, or even MasterChef for more natural speech. Advanced learners can challenge themselves with Inception, TED Talks, or Sherlock, and use that 50-70% quick test.
Second, training your ears for fast, connected speech with that three-step micro-listening exercise. Listen without subs. Test. Listen with English subs. Analyze those connections like what I wanna. Then listen without subs again. Retest. Repeat on short clips.
Third, using subtitles strategically, not as a constant crutch. Watch with English subs first, comprehension and mapping, then watch the same part again without subs, pure listening practice, and then add shadowing, pausing, and repeating to work on pronunciation.
And fourth, actively improving your speaking using movies. 2 key exercises: simultaneous shadowing, speaking with the character for fluency and accent, and role play, acting out a character's lines, matching tone and emotion for expressive delivery.
By actually doing these things, applying the specific techniques, your movie time stops being just passive entertainment and becomes truly intentional, targeted learning. You're hitting those key skills: listening, understanding natural speech, pronunciation, confidence in speaking.
It really does transform how you can use this amazing resource.
Okay, you've got the strategies. Now it's time for action. Here is your challenge for today.
Right, let's put this into practice immediately. Think about a movie or show you like or one you plan to watch.
Step 1. Find a very short clip. Seriously, just 10 or 15 seconds of dialogue. Could be a funny line, a question, anything.
Step 2. Take that tiny clip and apply the 3-step listening exercise. Listen without subtitles. Then listen with English subtitles, really focusing on how the words connect or change sound. Then listen one more time without subtitles. Notice the difference in your comprehension.
Step 3. From that same short clip, pick just one sentence. Shadow it. Try your absolute best to say it exactly like the character, match the sound, the rhythm, the speed. Pause and repeat, or if you're feeling bold, try that simultaneous shadowing.
And we genuinely want to hear how this goes for you. What show or movie did you pick? What did you find the hardest part of the challenge? Was it the initial listening, spotting the connected speech, or maybe getting the pronunciation right when you shadowed?
Yeah, let us know. Did you pick up any new words or expressions, even in that tiny clip? Sharing your experience helps solidify the learning, too. Engaging like this, even for just a minute, is so much more effective than hours of just letting it wash over you.
Definitely. And speaking of challenges, now that you've got a plan for learning from visual media, what about when you lose those visuals completely? Like talking on the phone in English.
Oh boy, phone calls. That's a whole different level of difficulty, isn't it? No facial expressions, no gestures, no lip-reading cues, just voices.
Exactly. That total reliance on just hearing makes phone calls really intimidating for a lot of learners. It's so easy for misunderstandings to happen, and knowing how to handle them smoothly is a vital skill.
Which is exactly why our next deep dive is going to be all about mastering English phone calls.
Yeah, we've gathered some great practical tips from the source material to build your confidence. We'll cover things like how to start and end calls naturally, useful phrases for common tasks like making appointments or asking for information, and crucially, how to politely clarify things when you inevitably misunderstand something, because it happens to everyone.
So if the thought of picking up the phone to speak English makes your palms sweat a little, you definitely don't want to miss the next deep dive. Make sure you follow or subscribe so you catch how to handle phone calls in English.
And as we wrap up today's session, just remember, learning English really can be enjoyable. Using movies and TV shows with these active specific techniques we've talked about isn't just effective, it's a fun way to make real progress, especially with listening and speaking.
So go find a show, pick a short clip, and try out one of these methods today. Turn that screen time into truly smart, productive learning time.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive. Until then, happy watching, happy listening, and definitely happy shadowing.
Bye for now.